This is North Jakarta, and it's sinking. Whenever it is the rain season, this area of the town gets submerged in rainwater. Jakarta is facing a global warming and rising sea level crisis. But why is it sinking so quickly? To pinpoint the cause of the Jakarta sinking crisis, we have to start with why and how Jakarta is sinking. And it's been going on for years. Jakarta has been in a battle with Mother Nature. As you can see in 2007, the areas that has been greatly affected by rising sea levels are more concentrated in the north. Fast forward to 2025, and you can see that these areas have spread from the previous northern areas of Jakarta to central and southern Jakarta. And this is the story about why Jakarta is sinking. In North Jakarta, almost 2 million people live here, and it's sinking at a rate of 25 centimeters per year, potentially displacing everyone in this district within the next 20 years. And well, the reason why the city is sinking so quickly? The answer lies with its geographic and historic past. Now, Jakarta has 13 rivers that run through the city. But the problem is, Jakarta as a city does not get their fresh water supply from these rivers. Rather, they get them from underground water reservoirs known as aquifers. Now, just think of it as Tetris. When the bottom layer disappears, the top layer will become the new bottom layer. And as long as the pieces keep falling down to the bottom, the game continues. Now, think of the Tetris blocks as rainfall. As long as these aquifers are continuously refilled by rainwater, the ground won't sink. But as you know, Jakarta is the fastest urbanizing city in the world, and water can't go through concrete, so these aquifers are unable to be refilled, hence the ground is essentially sinking. This is my friend and Indonesian teacher, Hilal. We met almost 2 years ago when he started teaching me Indonesian.
Kamu pikir Jakarta akan sink?
That's good question. Aku nggak tahu. Mungkin ya. Tapi let's see ya, mungkin 10 atau 20 tahun dari sekarang. Yeah.
Let's pause here. It's not entirely the local people's fault, nor the Indonesian government's, that Jakarta is sinking so fast. No. To find the root of this problem, let's go back 4 centuries. The age of colonial expansion and European superpowers vying for supremacy in the mystical East. At the time, the Dutch sent an army from the Maluku Islands and took over what was the predecessor of Jakarta, now known as the ancient city of Jayakarta. And with the burning of the city was also the loss of the ancient Indonesians' technology of managing the waterways and irrigation systems which prevented flooding. If you don't believe me, just look at this king, who was known to undertake numerous hydraulic projects in the 5th century in the city. Now, there's no evidence that these projects survived when the Dutch came, but you get the gist. It was more likely than not that the ancient locals had a way of managing their own land. Now, the Dutch named their new colony Batavia and built the colony with Amsterdam as its inspiration. This meant that the colony would have numerous tall, narrow houses along the river system. And with Amsterdam as its inspiration, they dug numerous canals along the city so that it would look like a Venice of the East, a city full of maritime trade. You might be wondering, this doesn't look like Venice or Amsterdam. Well, let's fast forward to the 1700s. The 1700s was a very interesting era whereby the Europeans' taste started to change. Coffee was replaced by tea, and the prices of spice dropped severely due to the British managing to grow it in their own colonies. With the Dutch's 2 most profitable crops now devalued, they ran out of money. No one was maintaining and cleaning it, and when these canals were the people's main source of fresh water, bad things happened. Disease quickly spread and, well, people died. A lot of them. So the people came together and was like, dude, this water is killing us. Let's drink natural underground water from now on. And this is why the Indonesians have been drinking underground water ever since. So this original colony was in the north of the city, and when these canals essentially were destroyed and disease spread, the Dutch moved away. They moved south. They learned from their mistakes, and instead of digging more canals, they built iron pipes which would give them access to clean water. And while the locals who now live in the north were left to fend for themselves. Another interesting fact was that at around the same time, the north of Jakarta was used to farm sugarcane. Remember when I mentioned that the Europeans started losing interest in spices and coffee? Well, the local people tried to farm sugarcane to sell. Now, with a little research here and there, let me tell you the effects of what sugarcane crops do to the land. Sugarcane essentially draws a ton of water and nutrients from the soil. In order to constantly grow sugarcane, farmers would have to continuously burn off old leaves when they cut the cane, damaging the soil. Sugarcane plantations need to be cleared each year, which causes flooding. The soil is supposed to act as a huge sponge, but without tree roots, it can't do what it's supposed to do. In turn, the soil travels to lowlands and rivers that will flood during the rainy season. You get flooding at the wrong places and at the wrong time. Doesn't that sound like what's going on in Jakarta now? Fast forward to the last 50 years and Jakarta's population exploded. The current city is built on the foundation of its European past, much like every other colonial city. But unlike those cities, this one has 10 million people who live here. Other cities in the world who are experiencing rising sea levels should also look at Jakarta as a stark warning of what their city may become. With the increase of global warming issues and rising sea levels, who knows which city will be the next Jakarta, or maybe the next Atlantis. And if you enjoyed this video, you should watch this one too, where I talk about how one king saved his country from colonization.